Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast series, The Impact of AI Explored, where we look at AI from the user point of view. I'm joined by my co host, James. James, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Nice, man. And we have a guest, a famous EUC rock star, Brian. Welcome, man.
Bonjour. Hi, I'm Brian Madden. I live in Paris now. I've been in IT for 30 years, mostly in the end user computing side of things. So you may have known brianmadden.com or Briforum or the books. And I do a lot with like Citrix and VMware. More recently, especially since the pandemic, I've gotten involved in like not just EUC, but like future of work, like digital workplace. And now I'm actually focused on what I'm calling workplace AI. So it's sort of a continuation of all the digital workplace, how employees use technology, and is looking at how AI is going to make all that really, really complicated.
Good to see you. Nice to have you. We're going to have a really cool talk about the things that Microsoft is doing and your vision about AI in the workplace. But first, of course, as always, we're going to start with the news. And it's been a busy week in AI land, or busy month in AI land, if you look at the at everything that was happening. But the big two things were in our point of view, were the release of the GPT-4 Omni. So that's a really cool new release from OpenAI, where one of the cool things I saw was that they incorporated the direct translation into their product, where you can use it. For example, James, Brian, you were telling in your intro while we were talking, you live in Paris now and you're trying to learn French. But
yeah, and it's great. Using large language models is fantastic because, of course, you have like real context instead of just translating word for word. And the GPT-4 Omni model, I mean, it's a different model, right? It has like the image diffusion and language recognition and the sort of all the text knowledge in the same model. So it's not like the old version, when you talk to ChatGPT-4, one model transcribes your voice and sends text into the LLM, and then text comes back and is turned back into voice. So, I think ChatGPT has not released the full kind of voice interface for ChatGPT-4 Omni, but I'm hoping I can use it to practice French and like actually try what do they say here? My offensive American accent or something like that. Bonjour, parlez-vous français? And I'm hoping Omni can be like, right.
Yeah,
we're gonna work on that.
Just looking at Omni now, I'm going to use the word allegedly, but obviously there was a bit of controversy around the release of Omni and certain voices used, and Scarlett Johansson said that they alleged that they used her voice, and OpenAI have said this is not the case. But it just brings that whole thing about copyright infringement and we're talking about using our voices on an LLM, and then what do OpenAI do with our voices and stuff like that? It's just a kind of a gray area, isn't it? Really, in terms of
there's a lot of issues being conflated together here. First of all, you can't copyright a voice. And analysis has been done that if you look at Scarlett Johansson and her voice, they take the voice of what they call Sky from GPT-4 Omni and match it to celebrities. There was like 4 or 5 other celebrities like Zooey Deschanel and these others that it matched higher likelihood than Scarlett Johansson because it's a poppy American. And I mean, how many different voice timbres are there really? And so you can do now you can't copyright a voice. There can be like likeness infringement and like unfair marketing where you're using someone's image and likeness without their permission. But when it comes down to it, I mean, there's 8 billion people on the world. There are not 8 billion unique voice signatures. So, now that said, obviously, like this evidence that that OpenAI used to prove that they were not trying to copy Scarlett Johansson's voice is ludicrous. But I think you raised the bigger issue is like when we interact with these models, what information are they taking from us? Like people don't understand. Like everything you say to ChatGPT does not become part of the training sets automatically. But if you save your conversations and you're using the free version, it will. It's just like when you call into a phone company and they say this conversation might be recorded for future use. Like maybe they take some learnings from that and put it in there. And the point is like it's a gray area that we don't really understand, and that's something that, I mean, newsflash: giant, big billion-dollar corporation is not exactly forthcoming on how they use your personal data. Okay,
we're going to get into that in a bit more detail, aren't we? About it, a different giant billion-dollar company quite soon. So, so Gerjon, obviously, ChatGPT Omni was a big thing, but you've been looking at obviously Microsoft Build took place, and what was we're going to talk in particular around Recall. But was there any, before we get into our kind of in-depth discussion about that, was there anything else that jumped out of you from Build?
Yeah, well, Microsoft is heavily invested in AI, and Microsoft Build was no exception. If you look at all the news that were released, every single thing in the highlight had the word AI somewhere hidden in it. So it was really cool, but they showed some examples. So one of the things they said, the GPT-4 Omni model is also available in Azure AI services already. So that's really cool. So people that use AI, the Azure services can use it for their own use. So that's really cool. And the other thing that I found was a feature that my customers really might use is the release of a Copilot that you can run in your SharePoint site. So it's just connected to a SharePoint site, and you can run it there, and you can ask it questions about all the information on the site. So that might have some use cases. So I'm really eager to try that one out. The other thing, what I found really cool was they showed the demo in the keynote where a guy was playing Minecraft, and he was not sure how to play Minecraft. So he asked Copilot, "Hey, can you help me play Minecraft?" And Copilot said, "Yeah, sure. Share your screen and I'll help you." So he shared the screen.
I need that because my 6-year-old is playing Minecraft and I have no idea how to play it. So I need that.
Yeah, same here. So and the Copilot thingy was telling him, okay, there's a zombie coming, you need to hide, and I want to have a sword. He said, okay, well, if you go over there and you mine something, you do this, then you can get the sword that your son already has. So I was thinking, okay, but that's Minecraft, but it also works on different other applications. So in the case of AI for end user computing, it can be really beneficial for everyone if they have a question about an application and you can ask Copilot, can you help me with this application because I'm not really sure what it's doing or how to fix stuff. So that might release the pressure on our help desk crew in the future. So that was one of the biggest things. And the other thing that I was really wondering how it's going to look is Copilot for Teams, where you can have a Copilot in your project team and it can do a bit of project planning and keeping the budget in check and all that kind of stuff. And I really was curious to see how that might work in the workplace in the future, but it's not released yet, but I'm really eager to see that one also. So, and if for the listeners, if you want to look at everything that Build has, they have everything is on YouTube. There are several highlights that you can watch, but it's been a very interesting one. And the biggest release that we're going to talk about is exactly the Copilot for PC, where you can have a recall function that on your PC that Copilot. I was looking at a website last week. I don't remember the website, and Copilot on your PC can say, okay, it was a purple one with this kind of logo, and the recall function on your computer will tell you, okay, you looked at that website. That's really powerful and scary.
Yeah, and Brian, obviously you wrote an article last week about, or this week actually, about Recall, but not the wider kind of workplace AI. So do you want to kind of detail what Recall is and kind of some of the repercussions of Recall? I know you actually altered your article after getting a bit more. I think it was it Kevin Bowman did a really in-depth look at Copilot from a security perspective.
Yeah, I altered to say it's actually even more scary than I thought, but it doesn't change the core premise. But yeah, let's back up to what Gerjon was saying. Microsoft has the Copilot brand. They've announced Copilot for Windows. They had announced that before. That's kind of replacing Cortana. And it's like your helpful little AI helper, and you can ask it questions and these kinds of things. At Build, they also announced a hardware brand called Copilot Plus PC, we're like really getting into Microsoft naming conventions here. And the Copilot Plus PC is a series of PCs that Microsoft is releasing with their Surface stuff, plus like Dell and HP and all the others are releasing PCs that have GPUs and have NPUs, neural processing units, of a minimum level functionality to where you can do sort of local processing of things. So there will be PCs with like another sticker on them called like, this is a Copilot Plus PC. The idea is like, this is what our moms are going to buy, I guess, when they want that Chat GPT on their own computer. And of course, Microsoft have to have a reason to justify why you're buying an expensive new PC. And so they said, well, look at all these AI capabilities that we can do locally on your PC that you don't need the cloud for, because the cloud's scary, right, everyone? And we're like, I'm sorry, didn't you spend the last 10 years convincing me to put everything in the cloud at Microsoft? How's your local AD doing nowadays? Who's running Exchange on-prem? Anyway, the cloud's scary, as you know. Yes. And so you want to do things locally. And so they announced all these new features. The idea is if you do things locally, in addition to the better security, I'm using hard finger quotes here, of things being local, you've got like faster, it's less latency, so you can have more interactivity with your with the models. And so Microsoft released announced and previewed all these features that require this Copilot Plus PC hardware. Now, in typical internet fashion, this happened 2 weeks ago, and since then the internet is basically, I'll call it jailbroken. All these features they announced work perfectly fine on your existing laptop. They're just kind of like license locks to the future ones, because again, gotta sell those new laptops. And so there's a lot of features that they announced. One of the features they announced that'll be part of Windows 11, if you have a Copilot Plus branded PC, is a feature called Microsoft Recall. Recall essentially takes screenshots of your computer every 5 seconds. It OCRs those screenshots to pull out all the text. It puts that into like a little SQLite database in your local app data on your Windows computer. And then you have full text search against it. So the idea is, like you were saying, Gerjon, like, oh, what was that website last week? Like with the dog on it? I don't remember the name. And you can search and find it. Now, if this sounds like a familiar existing product that already has existed for years, that's because this is a familiar existing product that already has existed for years. There are many companies that are doing this already. Rewind.ai I'm using right now. I have it on my Mac. It does a very similar thing. Also, in typical Microsoft fashion, this is a V1.0, which is comically insecure and feature basic. Like, this thing is taking screenshots, but it's then just pulling out text. So like that purple logo I saw last week, it doesn't have purple logo in your, in its archive unless that was tagged properly, like on the screen. So it could get there eventually. And so what has happened since then? So I wrote an article about this because everyone is freaking out about like security, it's privacy, compliance, all these sort of things. And my article that I wrote, and it's on LinkedIn, you can put it in the show notes.
We're going to put it in the show notes. Yeah.
It was a 3,500 word article. It was a big piece. I was like, look, this is happening, people. If you don't like it, it's scary now. I mean, look at everything that was scary. And then, a year later, it's just like, yeah, this is the way it works. Like Microsoft Copilot, this recall feature, whether it's from Microsoft or not, is going to exist. In fact, what you just mentioned, Gerjon, where the AI can help you play Minecraft, it's very telling that Microsoft had AI like watching your screen. I'm using air quotes here again, in a game where the stakes were low. Why shouldn't it watch all the emails I write and everything I do at work and like give me helpful tips along the way? Like, just tell me, are you really writing that to your boss? You're writing this here, but this person already told you. Like, I want that. And I want it to be in the cloud, because one thing with this Rewind.ai, for example, that I use now, it's on my iPhone, it's on my iPad, it's on my Mac. They don't talk to each other because they're all local and they refuse to enable cloud sync, probably for the reasons we talk about. And I'm like, well, now I got like, did I see that website on my phone, or was it on my iPad, or like, so the idea, first of all, the idea that something is more secure because it's on your local device is ludicrous. Like, yeah. We've been selling VDI as more secure because it's in the cloud for 2 decades. Like, it's happening. And I also think it's very important. Microsoft is taking a lot of flack for these sort of issues with recall. let's separate what Recall does from an AI standpoint and the laughably, comically naive security that the Recall feature has today. Like today, it captures everything. It captures passwords. It captures.
Yeah, I saw like it was like an RDP client, and it was capturing the password for the RDP client.
Now it's only going to do a screenshot every 5 seconds. So if your passwords have dots on them, and but it's kind of funny too, because that Kevin Beaumont article, you
we'll
can
definitely put that in the show notes.
Yeah, and because it's keeping just text, which is highly compressible, months and months and months of text is only maybe a couple dozen megabytes, and like bloop, you can exfiltrate that from someone before the Microsoft Defender even kicks up, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, it's already gone. That data left. So it's so the issue is that let's separate the security of Recall and Microsoft like very quickly rushing this feature out. That's a big miss by Microsoft and a big problem that can be fixed over time. I think the conversation, one thing that's missed is everyone convolutes the poor security of Recall and the concept of AI watching your screen and conflates those as the single issue. And really, these are two different conversations. So the security, it's horrible. Shame on Microsoft. That'll get fixed. Let's have a real conversation now about the future, though, and the concept about what's going to happen when you have an AI watching over your shoulder, which I believe is 100% the future. That is happening. It's just like I want that for myself. If I had that today, and there's all sorts of sensitive information on my laptop already, I trust that Apple or Microsoft or whatever, there's like encryption or something or TPMs. I don't know. I'm not like, I trust my computer maker makes a secure device. I trust that I have information in the cloud. I have email in the cloud. I have my passwords in the cloud. I trust they can have screenshots in the cloud, and the world is going to figure out how to make that safe. So, but I would love an all-knowing AI. I mean, we're looking at these AI models becoming like, GPT-4 is 10x more capable than GPT-3. GPT-5 is going to be 10x more capable than GPT-4. GPT-6 is going to be 100x more capable than GPT-4. I want that GPT-7 in the year 2026 being like...
You want Jarvis?
Yeah, of course. Because I'll be a Superman. I would love it. I would freaking love my coworkers to be scared of this and not to use it. I'll be like, I'm going to do all y'all's jobs. And well,
this is the thing. We keep hearing about AI is going to take your job, and the quote that's I'm always hearing is no, someone who utilizes AI is going to take your job, not the actual AI. And I think you're right. We work in tech. Things have always been evolving, and you just have to keep evolving with it. And as you said, AI is there and to assist it. Is there, as you said, you've taken the two things apart. Yes, Recall security is absolutely awful. As a concept and as kind of something to help, it seems like a good idea. So they are two very distinctive issues that we have to remember. And as you said, this is not an express train. This is a bullet train. It ain't stopping. So you either embrace it or you get knocked down by the train. That's just the way it is. So as you say, and there's so much excitement and potential around this. Like I see, I've got two kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I'm like, how is education going to change that they could basically have an AI assistant helping them? My daughter has a condition called dyspraxia, so she has learning disabilities, and I just think of the plus side of what that can do to help her progress through life. So, and so many other fields, but those are just kind of two fields. Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying there, Brian.
Yeah, and people, we don't have to go. You've talked about, by the way, congratulations on this show. For everyone listening, James, you reached out to me a couple weeks ago about the show, and I was not familiar with it. I listened to all 4 of your episodes so far. Fantastic. Really happy to be here today, and thank you for the invite. And I love that you're having this conversation. It's like all technologies; they're scary. You can do good, you can do bad, blah blah blah. That's ad nauseum. People have been talking about that for the context of AI. My focus, and I think what I'm hearing from you two also, is I'm calling this workplace AI. And workplace AI, I don't know if I created that term. That's the term I'm using. I don't know if it's the real term. It's just like what I'm calling it, because a lot of AI content out there online, you see content that's like user-based AI, like guides to prompting and how to choose a model. Like that's all fine for like our moms, and everyone should read that. That's fine, but that's not what we're doing here today. There's like AI science, like weights and balances of this model, blah blah blah, beep boop bop. Like that's great. Like I'm not an AI scientist. I'm not going to be an AI scientist. I like that they're doing things. And then there's also like the operational AI, which I think about it like OT versus IT. There's businesses where AI is part of their core business. Banks looking at fraud, insurance companies, medical examinations with. They've been using AI already. Like they've been using AI for 20 years, right? So like they don't like what we're talking about right now. Like we're not going to Visa International being like, hey, you can use AI to look at 1 billion transactions a second. Like, thanks, son, we got this. But what really changed in November of 2022 when OpenAI released ChatGPT was all of the slack-jawed yokels like us. Jeroen, pardon me, Johan. I listened to not Johan. He's been doing this since 2017. Nicola, like some people have been doing this a long time. I have not. I heard of AI.
Oh, no, Johan's way ahead of us. Like seriously, like Johan's building his own models. He's built his Jarvis already. He's built his V1 of Jarvis.
Yeah, like good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, exactly.
But to most
if you haven't watched that episode, go watch it.
It was fantastic. Yeah,
episode 2, absolutely brilliant.
All your episodes, the one with Nicola last week, about how to like incorporate this in your bit. I mean, it's really a great show, guys. I, like most of us, knew AI from like 2001 Space Odyssey, Terminator, Her, these kinds of things. It was not until November 2022 when OpenAI released ChatGPT to the world, which, by the way, people say ChatGPT had been around forever before that. Well, I didn't know. And also they say ChatGPT is not AI. And I'm like, my bad, whatever. Like, whatever you call it, it's changing things. And instantly, like this is like the consumerization of IT, where people remember how quaint it was in the old days when all we worried about was if people were like using their own iPhones at work. Ah, what a simpler time. And so
when BYOD was the big conversation.
He wants to Mac. Oh, I wish that was my biggest problem today.
Now we've got machines that could potentially destroy us all.
Yeah, but I mean, like, and I know it's a bit of a euphemism, but this is people talk about this. The danger of AI is not Skynet with lasers. The danger of AI is people using it and not understanding about hallucinations. People using it, like the unfairness. Like, I can afford AI because, like I can buy all these models. You get access to the best models. You get access to more features. I have space in my life to learn these products, and I can turn like I'm already a superhuman because I am enhanced by all of these AIs. And think of a coworker who can't afford to buy them on their own. Maybe they have kids or working second jobs. Like, who's got time to focus on all this kind of stuff? So I think AI.
And that brings it up a really interesting point. I read the study by the Reuters Institute. I'll put it in the show notes, but it basically was saying like people who are using it now, we all work in tech and we're in this kind of bubble. But the general population, as you said, there's nearly 8 billion people on this planet. Like the numbers are really low of AI adoption at the moment. I think the US is at 14, the UK is at 7, Argentina for some reason is at 15. But like those are really low numbers. So we are very much early adopters. Like, my parents are not using AI. My brother, who has no interest in tech, doesn't use AI. So we really are. And I think you did a keynote at VMware User Group about this, how we really are at the early stages and not to panic about it, that there is still time.
Right. But it's happening, and it's going to it will fundamentally change the way that businesses operate and the way the whole world works. Now, my opinion on how the world at large is impacted by AI doesn't matter. Like, I'm just another dude with an opinion. But on the workplace, I can have a perspective, and that's where my real interest is. As a hobby, I'm interested in what it can do in my life. Like we're going to Scotland this summer, and I use it to help plan like our stops and the whiskey trail and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. But
Irish whiskey is better, by the way.
I will just say I have to do my own research on that topic.
That's fair enough.
Noelle and I are both. I'm gonna sign her up too for be a research assistant for us both being.
There you go. There you go.
So, but it's to your point. Yeah, our parents ChatGPT is the world's best dirty limerick machine, and it's a party trick. But let's remember, we're early in this, and not just early in terms of AI's capabilities and where it's wrong, but we're also early in the UI. Remember, the first computers were like DOS boxes, and if you took a business person and showed them an Apple IIe, they're like, "What? This is changing the world, Dad! Don't you understand?" They're like, "What are you talking about, man? Like, I need a PhD to understand this thing." But then you show them a GUI, you show them VisiCalc. You show them email marketing, like over the next decades, and like, oh wow! And now everything did change the world. I do not believe like these chat-based interfaces is not how we are going to interact with AI in 5 years. This is the I don't want to call it V1. It's agile. This is June.24 that we're on right now. We're going to be on July.24 next month. Like it's going to change, and the way it's going to change is going to be. Like I said, imagine something going back to that Microsoft Recall capability. Forget the security, but think about the concept of an AI that can watch your screen. OpenAI demonstrated this, and I'll say for anyone who's not watched the videos from OpenAI from their last event where they talk about the ChatGPT 4.0. Those videos are phenomenal. Like you can share your screen with the model. Oh, I see you're trying to go here, trying to click here. We can think about how we help our moms. Like, oh, it's going to say no, higher, no, higher. It can be super polite and patient. An AI that looks at my screen, imagine from a company standpoint, is now looking at all the screens of all the users in the entire company and realizing, oh, your idea over here, this is over here, this project is late. It can know a project slips before like the report. You don't have to wait for reports. I mean, the idea, like, again, there's an old famous quote about like Henry Ford. I know Henry Ford didn't actually invent the car, but whatever. We'll say like whatever. Who invented the car? Like the whole joke about if you asked someone what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse because the car wasn't invented yet and they didn't have this mental model for that. Same with the iPhone. Remember all the renderings of the Apple phone before it was released looked like iPods with like dial pads on them, and then you saw the iPhone and everyone's head exploded. And so it's the same thing with AI. It's like right now, work is based on words, and your work, how productive you are, is like sort of an analog for like how many words you output. 5 years ago, is based on how much time your butt is in a seat. And then COVID happened, and we're like, oh, we can't really measure who comes in early and who stays late. And now these return to work efforts are companies who are like, I don't know what to measure besides how much someone badges into an office. Can we go back to that, please? Now AI, now we measure people based on their work output. Well, this happened on like you talked about this before, like, on your show, I can use Office Copilot and make a presentation and say, click, 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 and boom, here's my presentation. And it's pretty good. And there's animations and all these kinds of things. And I'm like, why are we making this presentation then? Like, what's the purpose? If I'm having, I use ChatGPT or Office Copilot to generate my text for me so I can have more reports, more transcripts, more summaries. And then also I've got so much more content to consume because ChatGPT made text generation free. I now need another AI model to recondense it back down to me. In the meantime, I've AI blown it up, wasted all sorts of data and processing power, and then AI shrunk it back down again. I'm like, let's take a step back. Like, why are we creating these in the first place? Do I need AI to create a status report for me to send out so it sits as an attachment in someone's Outlook attachments folder for the next 2 months until they look at it? Or does that person use AI enhancement to ask their version of Jarvis, hey, how's that project going? And it can magically, conjure up that report right as it needs it. So what we're going to see in workplace AI right now is just a lot of faster horses. we're in the early stages. We're using it for text. The only people who win are Microsoft and Nvidia because they're selling us all this content. But I'm telling you, this is not how this is going to look in the workplace in 5 years. It's not. And this is what's important right now is for companies to start to think about, this is not just an IT conversation. It's IT, it's HR, it's your executive leadership, it's legal, it's compliance. This is the time now to start thinking about what this wants to mean. Because if my job is based on me generating all this text output, if text output generation marginal cost becomes zero, what am I doing all day? Am I working half the time and getting the same money? Am I working half the time and getting paid half the amount? Are they going to lay off half the people? Maybe it's not a mass firing. Maybe it's people randomly quit and they just don't hire more. And who gets screwed is the young college kids. Who knows? But it's going to be a very, very different world. And we are just now starting to realize, it's going to be different, and it's going to get different real quick.
Yeah, and we've seen that, as you said, it was November 2022, and if you think where we've gone from then to now is astronomical. And we've joked a couple of times going, oh, it seems fairly quiet in the world of AI, and then the next day something huge comes out. There is no quiet time. It's just constant. There's just so much going on and so much change. And it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on. I have multiple AI newsletters that come into my inbox, and I can't go through them all because there's just so much information to consume. So I take the highlights. I would love if ChatGPT could interact with my other applications and get me summaries from emails and stuff. And I know Copilot does that. My organization doesn't have Copilot yet, so I'm still having to do that myself.
Office Copilot I've been using for the past couple months. We can talk about that. It's a V1. You're caught up.
Okay. Fair enough.
Save your 30 quid a month now, man. You're not buy whiskey with that. You're not you'll get better return on investment there.
Fair enough. Yeah. So we are at the early stages with these things, but as you said, Brian, we have been judged on text output, but what's going to be I kind of see more the soft skills side of things coming into it, like doing podcasts, things where you don't want AI doing, you want humans interacting with humans and that kind of thing. So, and live presentations and that kind of thing. So that's kind of where I kind of see more developing, and potentially your content is generated by AI for, text content.
I mean, I think it's bigger than that.
Okay.
I gotta tell you what, everyone I talk to, so I my focus, workplace AI is what I do with my all day, every day. And it's really an extension. I actually just recently, last month was my 30-year anniversary. I started working in IT in May of '94. And
wow.
So, I've kind of always been on the end user computing side of things. I started as help desk and desktop support, and that got into SMS, and then Citrix, and then VDI, and then we got into the consumerization of IT, future of work, that sort of thing. So digital workplace, to me, workplace AI is just an extension of that. It's about the technologies that companies provide to their employees to get their job done, whatever that means. And so I talk to people about this stuff all day, every day. If there's one takeaway for people, it's you're not thinking big enough.
Right.
In how this is going to change things, and you're not thinking quickly enough in how quickly it's going to change things. Your quote, James, is perfect. You're oh, it's been slow news day in AI. Remember back in the old days, we got service packs once a quarter or once a year, and now it's there's one day without news, and we're wow, is my browser working? What's happening? But it's, I think we have to take a fundamental rethink of what it means to work. And this happened, COVID was a great preview of this. COVID really caused everyone to rethink the unwritten agreement between an employee and an employer in terms of, because COVID, I talk about this about personal productivity. I mean, if you can do your job in 4 hours a day, and you're working from home and you're doing your job 4 hours a day. I mean, it's does anyone know you're doing your job in 4 hours a day? Should they cut your salary because you can do it in 4 hours a day? Are you paid for your hours worked or your output?
I'm no, I would say from my point of view, like I work remotely for a US company, and I'm paid on my output, not the hours I work, and that so that varies.
Every company's different.
And that's
and does your manager
exactly
know that? Does your HR know that? Does your HR know you work 20 hours a week?
Don't know.
I'm not hearing yes.
I have no idea. I what the way I've always been like in this role I'm in is that I have certain tasks that have to be completed, and there's not a time associated with those tasks. It's just they are completed. That's the way it's perceived. So yeah.
On time.
I know it's different. It varies from company to company. I'm just talking about my own circumstances. So yeah.
And there's a quid pro quo about how quickly you complete tasks and how many tasks they assign to you. And if you got an AI if you got an AI assist that could allow you to complete your tasks 20% faster, would you raise your hand for 20% more tasks? Or would you just have an extra hour Minecraft a day?
Yeah. I know what you're getting at. Yeah, and I have seen, like, I saw the Microsoft I think workplace study which came out, and it said like they've seen productivity gains, and you are opening an interesting thing about what is work and how with those gains, like what happens? Do people have more free time, or how is that, and how do companies kind of utilize that? So yeah, I think you're right. I think this is going to be it's we have to think bigger than just kind of task changing. It's the whole concept of work.
Yeah, and let's unpack that, even that little throwaway statement of like, oh, the Microsoft study showed that there's productivity gains. What is productivity? Like, fundamentally, from an economist standpoint, it is, work effort in or resources in, product out, and the ratio of that.
Yeah,
I argue productivity can only be measured at the macro level. Truly, like, you can measure productivity of, like I did this after I left VMware. I said, look, VMware has 40,000 or whatever it was, 30,000 employees, and they have a annual revenue of like $13 billion. Well, Google has 80,000 employees and revenue of like $60 billion. So Google is like 4x more productive than VMware. And so you can look at it from a very high level to a company to say, I've got this many employees that I'm like, here's what I'm paying in salaries. Here's the revenue that it generates. Because when you get into hours, like how fast obviously some employees are better at other things. Does this department matter? Does this people matter? You got two people that are the same, but one works twice as fast as the other. Am I working at night? Like, sometimes companies do things where, you get like people are more productive because they work more hours, but they're working like over hours and it's free for the company, but are they really more productive? It's really, really, really difficult to measure like an individual productivity, which is why which is, by the way, a scary thing of a company having an AI that's like watching your screen, and maybe it decides, the AI version of turning everyone into a paperclip, but smaller, where it's like, oh yeah, I watched this employee operate, and like they're not, Brian's not nearly as productive as Gerjon. Like, look he can do the same thing in 4 hours a day. And Brian, where was Brian? I was like playing Minecraft on my other computer over here. So maybe I needed that to, like, for my brain to go through.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, there's been studies where, sitting in front of a screen is not productive, where if you go off for a walk, your productivity and, your imagination kicks in, and you maybe resolve an issue because you, say, went for a walk, went for a cycle, went to the gym. As you said, how do you measure productivity? It varies. It's a very individual thing. And to just apply a set of metrics is just so narrow-minded. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's a big problem with AI because, like, maybe you go for the walk and you're like, that thing you have at work that you're trying to figure out, it clicks on the walk, and then you type it into your email, and the email took 1 minute to write, and it's like, but typing the email take 1 minute, but it took you 100 minutes to like know what to type. And how do you measure and quantify that? There's one of my favorite old jokes about like the mainframe computer that was down and costing the company like $10 million a day, and the owner says, "I'll pay anyone $1 million who can fix this mainframe." And a guy comes in and he looks around and looks at everything and he kicks it. He's like, "Oh, thank you so much. Send me your bill." And he gets the bill and it's like $1 million. He's like, "What? $1 million for kicking the mainframe? That's not worth it." And he says, "Well, okay, sorry, let me send you a new bill." He says, "Kicking the mainframe, $10. Knowing where to kick the mainframe, $999,000, $990." And like these are the things when the danger with AI is, it only has access to part of this. For those listening to audio, I'm pointing at myself and my like meat bag brain. It only has access to like the part of our humanness that interacts with the computers. And it's going to be very difficult for companies to resist the urge to take, screen captures, outputs, whatever, and I start to like stack rank employees and figure out like who's actually air quotes productive or not. So these, again, there's a million issues like this. This is just one little one of the many little rabbit holes we can fall down, and it's gonna
absolutely.
It's crazy, man.
And yeah, no, it is. And as you said, this is why you mentioned all the different departments. Like the HR implications of some of this and legal implications are ridiculous. And no one. Well, I'm sure there are lots of lawyers who are looking at this now, and I know they are, because I went to an AI conference recently. I saw lawyers from some of the biggest law firms here in Ireland. They have a whole AI division now and there's a couple of people who are just working on AI 24/7, because it is going to be such a game changer, as you said, and the repercussions and everything. Like companies could end up getting sued for if they implement some of this stuff at the moment. Like they really could, because.
But it's interesting because companies can get sued if they don't implement it. I mean,
true.
I would say I am shocked by how many companies are just flat out violating GDPR without their knowledge. And especially because you got like these VDI desktops, they're doing screen recordings, and even a customer email pops up, and their signature is in there with their address and their contact information, and now that's been captured, and like technically that that's a personal identifiable information. I'm looking from the lawyer's standpoint. I mean, imagine I'm working on an article now for LinkedIn, which will probably be out by the time that this episode is published, where I'm saying some kind of AI-based screen recorder plus a VDI or DAS desktop is the ultimate secure compliance machine, because we're already taking the user interface and serializing it and sending it remotely, across the internet. Why not just have another processor in line when we're doing our protocol stack that's like the AI level, and imagine like a compliance engine. I mean, if I'm like, imagine like a OneTrust can make a plugin, for a VDI or something like that, because now that can be AI enabled. Instead of me trying to do data loss prevention and like at the database level and all the backend level, it's like, forget it. It's not going to work there anyway. There's too many holes you can slip through. Just watch my screen. And if you see any person identifiable information, maybe that gets blurred and not recorded if you're recording or analyzing it, or if the employee is not in a location that's secure, or I can't trust their device, I can actually just blur it. Like literally, their screen is blurry in that area because they're not in an area that's able to see that. So I can say today, with the technology capabilities that exist, as we say this is not a future thing. The technology capabilities exist to where I could actually have an AI kind of compliance engine that sits in between, my VDI DAS desktop and my employee, and like, sign me up. I think every legal department would be all over that today. So there's, of course, also now there's a lot of private conversations that I don't want to go in the permanent record. So lawyers are nervous about that. So again, even for them, you can't just say, "Ooh, they're concerned." Like they're champing at the bits to get this also, and concerned. Just like everyone, man, it's changing everything. Everything.
Yeah. No, I agree. Gerjon, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about when you were saying about measuring productivity, there's also different quality in productivity that you can measure to see what happens, but someone can deliver a 6, someone can deliver an 8, and the 8 might take more time or maybe less time, and all those things also you need to quantify. But it opens up a whole new can of worms about how AI might do our future and how we should well, how we can use it for employee monitoring, or exactly, and is it that bad?
Yeah, it's interesting because that's why you talk about it's hard when you quantify, like especially when you quantify qualitative things. Um, that's why to me, like, look, we live in a capitalist society, whether you like it or not, and the easiest way is the dollar, euro, pound, whatever you're measuring. This employee, like these numbers of employees generate this much in revenue. Like that's the ultimate quantification, because otherwise, to your point, quality, it's hard to check. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to your point about employees and wanting this, one thing I wrote in that article about Recall was that if I'm a business owner, first of all, if I think that I can use some AI capabilities that records all of my employees' screens and then have that go up to some like analysis engine at top that's kind of like pulling the levers and adjusting everything, and I can make myself 3 times more productive, air quotes, whether that's 3 times more revenue, whether it's 3 times faster than the market, whether it's do the same work with 1/3 the employees, whatever it is, I have a fiduciary responsibility to my shareholders who've invested capital to maximize the return on that capital. And if this technology exists and I'm not using it, I am a dereliction of duty. And so I'm thinking, hey, this is going to happen. And even now, people say, oh, employers are going to quit. I'm like, hey, if I can triple your productivity, I'll double your salary. And so you telling me you're not going to find a lot of employees that say, look, here's the deal. It doesn't matter. We're accounting, we're a construction firm, we're trucking, we're a tech company, lawyers, whatever. So here's the deal. We're going to give you a work laptop, a work tablet, a work phone. Everything you do on this is going to be recorded. It's going to be tracked. It's going to be used AI, and we're going to use it to make our entire company a massive super brain and make us all better. Now, that sounds scary. Do not do anything personal on your devices, of work devices, unless you want it to go into the forever record. You can have your own device. You can have your own laptop, whatever. Because this is kind of creepy sounding, hey, we're going to pay you double. Literally what you're making right now, we will double your salary. And maybe we can even do it in fewer hours. And so if I say, hey, we're working 4 days a week instead of 5, and we're doubling your salary, in return, everything gets recorded. I bet there's a stack of resumes taller than my room right now for people who'd be wanting to sign up for that. So employees are essentially, coin operated in what we get them to like. I mean, people feign about, well, the privacy, like, come on, everyone's using TikTok and is bulk shipping. Forget TikTok. Everything we do on the web is a Snoopy spyware meta nightmare, and no one does anything about it because they're like, oh, look, puppy videos. So you actually pay me double to record my screen? Sign me up. I would join that company tomorrow. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, no, I think, and I think most people would, in fairness, like, if you were being paid more and what's being done, then why wouldn't you? Now, I suppose there's numerous concerns, but like, would it then create like, some of the conversations I have in Teams, at work, it's like where I'm talking to like one of my colleagues and there might be some personal stuff in there. You would have to then think about what you're typing or talking about and all that kind of thing. But look, like we have, where I work, we already have for meetings, we have an AI tool that records our meetings and gives us transcripts and all that. And it does the whole thing from the minute it starts. So, this is coming. If someone wants to double my salary, I'm in.
Yeah, and there's going to be a social conversation around this. Like one of the downsides of technology is, as technology becomes more accessible and more ubiquitous, more people's lives are captured, and everyone has had moments that are like they would not like captured and could potentially be like on the news or discovered in a lawsuit or whatever. I'm sure like Tucker Carlson didn't want like his comments about Trump like exposed on the legal paperwork, right? And so whether that's a change, like I don't know what's going to happen. Like, do we really separate? Like, some people argue, well, you shouldn't be saying these things anyway if you wouldn't want it on the front page of the New York Times. Well, I can't have 24/7 every waking moment a brain thing where I'm like people have to be like able to just get some whiskey and be done.
You can't have your filter on 24/7.
Yeah, like there's a reason. Like my dude friends, like I don't share a transcript around the bar with my dude friends with my girlfriend. Like we are very it's not even about like saying things wrong. It's just about like you need different mental spaces. And so the idea of everything being recorded, I mean, this gets into like Black Mirror episodes and Social Score, and like there's some countries exist in the world today that are more along that path than others. It's a big conversation that society needs to have. I think it's going to start smaller within organizations, and because even your meeting conversation is like everything. If you have an AI pal in your meeting, which Zoom has announced in their company, is they want to basically have deep fakes of you that can attend meetings. People say, "Oh, it's great! I can now attend 3 meetings at once." Again, that's the faster horse. I'd argue why you have meetings in the first place when you have these AI tools. Have my AIs meet with your AIs and you figure it out. A lot of people think that's the future with AI agents. Also a different conversation. But the point is that like even if you have an AI buddy in a meeting today, your company probably should have some conversations, which is like, look, all of this is now discoverable in a lawsuit. All of it is potentially publishable on the front page of the paper. Be aware.
Just a quick reminder.
It's things.
I get what you're saying, and as I said, I think we're at the stage where this is so much bigger than just work. It's societal, like the impact, and I don't think we all have quite kind of reach that concept, and it is going to take time. And organizations are now looking at their AI strategy, but they're looking at it in terms of productivity. Are they looking at it from a legal and all those different aspects? I think there's so much more to it, and this has been a really brilliant conversation, I have to say that. And I think we could talk for about the next 8 hours probably, because there's just so much going on. But lots more. We should probably do a follow-up in a couple of months, Brian, and see where we're at then from now.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. I agree this is an important conversation. If I can do a little bit of a plug for myself, I'm working on a project now, which is kind of around this. So, those who know me and know like my role at like BrianMadden.com and Briform and the VDI Delusion book and stuff I did, I've always been a very like pragmatic realist where like I wrote the book, The VDI Delusion, even though I love VDI, because I thought people were delusional by thinking of like with their approaches to VDI, about 10 years ago or so. And like, it's like, and I now, I think these technologies, like we mentioned now, mean that VDI might even have a resurgence. I mean, it's already very popular.
Was this going to mean it's the year of VDI or something?
No joke. So people have been like joking to me, like, "Oh, haha, is it year of VDI?"
Year,
I got misquoted. That quote misappropriated to me like 10 years ago. In fact, when I was at VMware, I wrote an article saying why it's not the year of VDI and it will never be the year of VDI because we want integrated solutions with like UEM and device, whatever. But when I gave that keynote you mentioned about AI at the VMUG UserCon in the Netherlands a couple months ago, I actually ended my thing with saying 2024 is the year of VDI because we can now have the AI desktops. I did an article on LinkedIn also about this. Like the enterprise Windows desktop is not going anywhere because it's still the best aggregation point of all the different devices and apps we have. It's easy to deliver securely. And now I'm already serializing that, like I said, down into like a pixel stream. I can have AI in place right there. And my AI in place can do security, recording, compliance, DEX, analytics. Like it's a super machine. And I can use it on anything. And I really don't care about the endpoint device. I mean, there's a reason that, like I did another article on LinkedIn about all the new next-gen DAS vendors, WorkSpot, Aparto, Dision Frame, Cameo, Sonnet.io, Sean Bassett at Citrix now, like, VMware spun out to Admissa, like, something, AVD, Windows 65, like, VDI is the thing. It's really popping right now. And so, like, this is going to be a big year for VDI because of these technologies. But much like my history with VDI, the work I'm doing now is about workplace AI. And I believe people are having the wrong conversations. Like model adoption, because even how you can use AI, it's about like, how good is your company at doing projects? How do you handle projects? Do you do agile, continuous sort of development? Most of these AI projects take longer than the AI like updates itself. Like there's a very famous one with Bloomberg where they spent like $10 million training a GPT 3.5 model on their own custom data. And then GPT-4 came out and was zero training out of day one, which is better than the one they had custom trained anyway. And they just burned $10 million doing that. Like, so it's real. I mean, my belief is no one is really talking about like the real workplace AI impact and issues. It's all platitudes. It's all like, oh, you know, AI is going to change things. Like there was a big article in the Financial Times by Ethan Mollick, who I love. And he wrote about like the change in employees and what it means and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah. And then the last sentence was like, so that's why it's important to like, you know, do good strategies and make sure you do it right. I'm like, what? Oh, that's not actionable. What do I do with that? Like people are like, you know, it's AI. It can write papers for me. It can do that. I'm like, that's so not the point. So not the point. So anyway, everything I'm working on now is organizing, constructing all my thoughts in like the way I did in the past with like the VDI books, the DAS books, and kind of a guide. I'm building a guide. I think I might be writing another book on this, like a workplace AI. Like I don't know if I'll call it the workplace AI delusion or something like that, but I'm really working hard on like the real conversation about like what's really going on out there. You know, all these books talk about, oh, you can use it for marketing. Like I'm not AI fluff. Like how do you really wrap your head around this? Like what's legit, what's not legit? What are the real issues and what can you actually think about now? What happens if you don't think about this? If you ignore this, that doesn't mean you don't have a strategy. It just means your strategy is letting each individual employee figure out whatever they can do on their own. You're gonna have various different levels between employees. Some embrace, some don't embrace. You know, a lot of people say,
we're seeing that. Like we're seeing shadow AI. People are just using ChatGPT, and some of them are taking like NDA data and shoving it into OpenAI and not realizing the consequences of doing things like that. And you know, I say it all the time to people: yes, use it, but be aware. One, it hallucinates, and what you upload to it. Those are the two big things.
And see, even that, like what you upload to it is not always shared. So if you have an enterprise OpenAI account, they are not training on your data. They are not retaining your data. You can keep your conversation history. So like even that, there's just a lot of like it takes someone at the company to like let's just back up and understand what in the F is actually happening here, what we're trying to do. You know, the problems too is a lot of people say, well, this AI, it's a bubble, it's hype, it's going to pop. These huge market valuations are going to explode and like implode, and it's going to be over. That all, I'm sure that happens. I'm sure that's going to happen. That doesn't change anything. Even if all this hype and bubble and everything pops, like ChatGPT 4.0 is on the truck today. Users can have that today. That's not going away. If the AI bubble pops, ChatGPT doesn't get uninvented. So even if like all AI evolution stops today, even everything that we have in the world as products today can really, really change fundamentally how organizations operate, their relationships with their employees, how they pay their employees, what they pay them for. I mean, like there's so much that goes into this that people just are not thinking about today. So I'm spending all my time looking at workplace AI, like I said, as a sort of an offshoot of end user computing, future of work, digital workplace. It's just part of that conversation. But there's a conversation that needs to be had that is not happening right now. And so that's why I love, like, you guys are, starting that conversation. I love to be a guest here. I'm doing this full-time job all day, every day, digging into this. I'd love to keep talking about it.
Absolutely, and I think we'll definitely have you. We'll leave it for a couple of months, and see where we're at then. And we'll be talking about something new that's come out, maybe even GPT-5 at that stage. Who knows? This is the thing. This is the thing. It's so scary and it's so exciting at the same time. Like I'm fascinated by it. I obviously have my own day job, but this, as you said, has so many implications across so many different sectors. Well, everything, across everything. So it's life. It can be life changing, and so it's definitely worth having these conversations. And I personally want to thank Brian for coming on. I think it's been a fascinating conversation. As I said, we are not AI experts, but we want to learn and we want to have these conversations. And I think this is a really good forum. So, Brian, thank you so much for being on today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. It was a cool.
Likewise.
Cool
thank you, James Gerjon, for the invitation. I really enjoyed it. I love your show. All y'all watching, listening to this, like and subscribe. I'm going to tell you on their behalf. Fantastic work that you guys are doing, and I'm glad that you're out here doing it. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks to everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you again. Bye-bye.